My daughter announced, "You're not my real father. Mom's boyfriend is better." I declared, "Okay." Then I stopped the private school payments and sold her car. 16 hours later, her mother was threatening legal action. I, 42 thought I had seen everything in my 16 years of marriage. But last Tuesday evening proved me wrong in the most devastating way possible. My daughter walked into my home office where I was reviewing quarterly reports. Her face set in that particular expression teenagers master when they're about to drop a bomb. She stood there for a moment, arms crossed, before announcing that I wasn't her real father and that her mother's boyfriend was better than me in every way. The words hit like a physical blow, but what followed was worse. She told me she wished her mother had never married me, that I was just someone who paid bills, and that her real father figure was the man her mother had been seeing for the past 8 months. I sat there, staring at my laptop screen, watching the numbers blur together. 16 years of midnight feedings, school plays, soccer games, helping with homework, teaching her to drive, and countless father-daughter moments reduced to nothing. I looked up at her, this young woman I had raised since she was 2 years old, and simply said okay. The silence that followed was deafening. She seemed surprised by my calm response, perhaps expecting an argument or emotional breakdown. Instead, I closed my laptop and told her that if I wasn't her real father, then I supposed I didn't need to fulfill the responsibilities of one anymore. Her face shifted from defiance to confusion as I explained that her private school tuition payment, due next week, would not be coming from me. Neither would her car insurance, her credit card payments, or the college fund I had been contributing to for years. She stammered something about not meaning it that way, but I was already reaching for my phone. I called the private school's financial office and informed them that I would no longer be responsible for any fees related to my daughter's education. The administrator seemed confused, asking if there was a family emergency. I simply explained that I was no longer considered her father, so the financial responsibility would need to transfer elsewhere. Next, I contacted my insurance company and removed her from my auto policy. The representative asked if she had gotten her own insurance, and I told them that wasn't my concern anymore. Then I called the bank and froze the credit card I had given her for emergencies and school expenses. My daughter stood there watching this unfold, her earlier bravado completely gone. She asked what she was supposed to do about school, about her car, about everything. I reminded her that she had just told me I wasn't her real father, so these were no longer my problems to solve. Her real father figure could handle these responsibilities now. By this point, she was crying, insisting she didn't mean what she had said. But the damage was done. I had spent years being taken for granted, treated like an ATM rather than a parent, and her words had simply crystallized what I had been feeling for months. Her mother had been pulling away, their relationship had become increasingly strained, and now I understood why. I went to bed that night feeling strangely liberated. For the first time in years, I wasn't worried about someone else's problems. I wasn't calculating tuition payments or car maintenance costs. I wasn't planning around someone else's schedule or needs. The next morning brought chaos. My ex-wife called before 7 a.m., screaming about how I couldn't just abandon my responsibilities. I calmly explained that our daughter had made it clear I wasn't her father, so I was simply respecting her wishes. My ex-wife accused me of being petty and vindictive, but I reminded her that actions have consequences. She demanded to know how our daughter was supposed to get to school. I suggested she figure it out with her boyfriend, the one who was apparently such a better father figure. The conversation escalated quickly, with her threatening legal action and claiming I was violating our custody agreement. I had already anticipated this response. During our divorce 3 years ago, the custody agreement had been very specific about my financial obligations, but it also included clauses about respect and the child's acceptance of parental authority. A family lawyer friend had reviewed the documents years ago and mentioned that sustained rejection of parental relationship could potentially modify obligations. My ex-wife's threats didn't concern me much. I had been documenting the increasing disrespect and alienation for months. Text messages where my daughter called me names, instances where she refused to follow household rules, and now this explicit rejection of our father-daughter relationship. Any reasonable judge would understand that you can't force someone to be financially responsible for a child who completely rejects them. The real test came when I decided to sell her car. It was registered in my name, purchased with my money, and insured under my policy. I had bought it for her 16th birthday, thinking it would bring us closer together. Instead, it had become another source of entitlement and disrespect. I called a local dealership and arranged for them to pick it up that afternoon. The car was in excellent condition, and I got a fair price for it. When my daughter came home from school to find her car gone, the reality of the situation finally hit her. She called me at work, sobbing and begging me to reconsider. She promised she would apologize, that she would be more respectful, that she didn't mean what she had said. But I had heard these promises before, usually when she wanted something or had gotten into trouble. This time felt different because the consequences were real and immediate. I told her that words have power and meaning. When you tell someone they're not your father, you can't expect them to continue acting like one. She could apologize all she wanted, but the damage was done. Trust, once broken, isn't easily repaired. Her mother called again that evening, this time with her boyfriend on the line. He tried to play mediator, suggesting we all sit down and work things out like adults. I found his involvement particularly interesting, considering he was supposedly the better father figure. I asked him directly if he was prepared to take over the financial responsibilities of raising a teenager, including private school tuition, car payments, insurance, and college expenses. The silence on the other end was telling. He stammered something about not being in a position to take on those costs right now, but that he cared about my daughter's well-being. I pointed out that caring and providing are two different things, and that if he wanted to be her father figure, he needed to step up completely. My ex-wife jumped back into the conversation, accusing me of manipulating the situation and using money as a weapon. I reminded her that I had been providing for our daughter without complaint for years, even after our divorce, even when she made it clear she preferred her mother's household. The only thing that had changed was our daughter's explicit rejection of our relationship. Update 1. The legal threats materialized faster than I expected. By Thursday morning, I received a formal letter from my ex-wife's attorney demanding that I reinstate all financial support immediately. The letter claimed I was in violation of our custody agreement and threatened contempt of court charges. I forwarded the letter to my own attorney, along with the documentation I had been keeping. Text messages, voicemails, and witness statements painted a clear picture of escalating disrespect and rejection. My lawyer was confident that we had a strong case for modification of support obligations. The most interesting development came when I received a call from my daughter's school counselor. Apparently, my daughter had been telling teachers and friends for months that I wasn't her real father and that she couldn't wait to be free of me. The counselor had been concerned about the family dynamics, but hadn't known how to address it. This information was particularly valuable because it showed that my daughter's rejection wasn't a momentary outburst, but a sustained pattern of behavior. She had been undermining our relationship publicly while still expecting me to provide for her privately. Meanwhile, the practical consequences of my decision were becoming apparent. My daughter had to start taking the bus to school, which added an hour to her commute each way. Her mother had to pick up the car insurance payments, which strained their already tight budget. The credit card I had canceled had been used for everything from lunch money to shopping trips, and its absence was immediately felt. My ex-wife tried a different approach, having my daughter call to apologize directly. The conversation was painful but necessary. She cried and promised to be better, to show more respect, to appreciate everything I had done for her. But her apology felt hollow, motivated by consequences rather than genuine remorse. I explained that respect isn't something you can turn on and off like a switch. For months, she had been treating me like an inconvenience, someone who existed solely to provide money and transportation. Her words the other night had simply made explicit what her actions had been saying all along. She asked what she needed to do to fix things, and I told her the truth. I didn't know if they could be fixed. Trust takes years to build and seconds to destroy. She had chosen to destroy ours in the most hurtful way possible. Update 2. The court hearing was scheduled for the following week, but developments over the weekend changed everything. My ex-wife's boyfriend, the supposed better father figure, broke up with her. Apparently, the reality of potentially taking on financial responsibility for a teenager was too much for him. My daughter called me Saturday morning, devastated. The man she had held up as superior to me had abandoned her the moment things got complicated. She was learning a harsh lesson about the difference between someone who plays a fun role in your life and someone who takes on real responsibility. Her mother was equally distraught. Without her boyfriend's emotional and financial support, She was facing the reality of raising a teenager alone while dealing with the legal costs of fighting me in court. She called to ask if we could work something out without involving lawyers. I agreed to meet with them both, but I made it clear that any resolution would require genuine change, not just promises. We met at a neutral location, a coffee shop where we had once celebrated my daughter's middle school graduation. The conversation was difficult but honest. My daughter admitted that she had been taking me for granted, that she had been influenced by her mother's resentment toward me, and that she had said hurtful things because she knew I would always be there regardless. She was learning that unconditional love doesn't mean unconditional tolerance of disrespect. Her mother acknowledged her role in the situation. She admitted that she had been bad-mouthing me to our daughter, that she had encouraged the relationship with her boyfriend partly despite me, and that she had failed to teach our daughter to appreciate what I provided. I listened to their apologies, but I also made my position clear. I wasn't interested in returning to the previous dynamic where I was taken for granted and disrespected. If we were going to rebuild our relationship, it would be on new terms with clear boundaries and expectations. I proposed a trial period. I would resume some financial support, but with conditions. My daughter would need to show consistent respect, contribute to household responsibilities when she was with me, and acknowledge my role as her father publicly and privately. Any return to the previous behavior would result in immediate consequences. The private school situation was more complicated. The semester was already underway, and transferring to public school mid-year would be disruptive. I agreed to pay the remaining tuition for the current semester, but future payments would depend on her behavior and attitude. As for the car, I had already sold it, and I wasn't buying another one immediately. She would need to earn back that level of trust and responsibility. In the meantime, she could use public transportation or ask for rides, like millions of other teenagers do. Update 3. 3 months have passed since that confrontation, and the changes have been remarkable. My daughter's attitude has completely shifted. She calls regularly, not just when she needs something. She asks about my day, shares details about school, and actually seems interested in maintaining our relationship. The most significant change is in how she talks about me to others. The school counselor mentioned that she now speaks proudly about her father, correcting anyone who suggests otherwise. She's even started introducing me as her dad to new friends, something she hadn't done in years. Her academic performance has improved as well. Without the safety net of unlimited financial support, she's become more responsible and focused. She got a part-time job to pay for her own entertainment and shopping, which has given her a new appreciation for money and hard work. My ex-wife and I have developed a more respectful co-parenting relationship. She's stopped undermining me to our daughter and has actually started supporting my decisions. The legal threats were dropped, and we modified our custody agreement to better reflect the new dynamic. The most unexpected development was my daughter's reaction to her mother's ex-boyfriend. When he tried to reconnect a few weeks ago, she refused to see him. She told her mother that she had learned the difference between someone who talks about caring and someone who actually shows up when things get difficult. I've started dating again, something I hadn't done seriously since my divorce. My daughter has been supportive and even excited about the possibility of me finding happiness. It's a stark contrast to how she reacted to her mother's relationship. The car situation resolved itself naturally. After 2 months of public transportation and asking for rides, my daughter approached me about earning back the privilege of having a car. We worked out a plan where she would contribute to the purchase and ongoing expenses, making it a shared responsibility rather than an entitlement. Looking back, that painful Tuesday evening was actually a turning point. My daughter's cruel words forced a reckoning that was long overdue. By refusing to accept disrespect and following through on consequences, I taught her valuable lessons about relationships, responsibility, and respect. The most important lesson was that love doesn't mean accepting abuse. A parent's job isn't just to provide financially, but to teach values and boundaries. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is allow someone to face the consequences of their choices. Our relationship now is stronger than it's been in years. It's built on mutual respect rather than obligation, on appreciation rather than entitlement. My daughter learned that having a father isn't just about biology or convenience. It's about commitment, sacrifice, and unconditional love, even when that love requires tough decisions. The experience taught me something important too. I had been so focused on being the good guy that I had enabled disrespectful behavior. By setting firm boundaries and following through on consequences, I didn't lose my daughter. I gained her respect and ultimately strengthened our bond. Sometimes the most difficult parenting decisions are the most necessary ones. Standing up for yourself teaches your children to stand up for themselves. Demanding respect shows them how they should expect to be treated by others. And sometimes, walking away is the only way to show someone what they're about to lose.